This is the first picture of the Earth fully illuminated that any of us have ever seen. It was taken on the last day of the Apollo missions, and it changed the way that humanity thought about our common home. It reminds us that we are all connected and that our actions have an impact on the world. This photo is called the Blue Marble. It is a photo of Earth from NASA's Apollo 17 mission, taken as the crew was traveling toward the moon on December 7th, 1972. There are only three questions remaining about the climate crisis. Must we change? Can we change? And will we change? First of all, must we change? The scientific community all around the world has been telling us for a very long time that yes, we must change. Now Mother Nature is telling us. The sky is not a vast and limitless expanse the way it appears to us as we stand on the ground and look up. In reality, there is just a thin shell of the atmosphere surrounding the planet. You can see the two lowermost layers of the atmosphere, the troposphere and the stratosphere. This image was taken from the International Space Station, currently flying above us in the thermosphere. Now, we are putting about 152 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into the atmosphere every single day. That pollution, especially carbon dioxide or CO2, is building up and it's trapping heat. Again, here's the basic science of global warming. This has been understood by scientists since the 1800s. Energy from the sun comes to the earth in the form of light. That energy is absorbed by the earth and warms it. Some of that energy is re-radiated from the earth in the form of heat. Some of that outgoing heat is trapped by the atmosphere, which is a good thing. Remember, global warming again is not the same as the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is a good thing. It has kept our planet at a stable temperature. Now, however, we have begun to thicken the atmosphere by filling it with heat-trapping pollution. More heat energy is trapped, and it is warming our planet at an unprecedented rate. There are many sources of human-caused global warming pollution: agricultural practices, forest burning, transportation, and many other factors. But the main source and the cause of rising global temperatures we are seeing is the burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels still provide more than 80% of the world's energy. Fossil fuel use and emissions have gone up dramatically since World War II. In the last few years, there was a leveling off as the world adopted more and clean energy solutions until another recent spike in global warming pollution. As a result of this pollution being trapped in the atmosphere, global temperatures have risen dramatically. "19 of the 20 hottest years ever measured with instruments have occurred since 2001. The hottest year of all was 2016. Heat itself is a problem in many parts of the world and many parts of this country. Heat affects not only people, but animals, crops, and our weather. On a global basis, more than 90% of all extra heat energy trapped by our atmosphere is going into the oceans. This heat makes ocean-based storms like hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones stronger and more destructive. Half of the increase in global ocean heat content has occurred in less than 20 years. This is an image of Hurricane Florence back in September 2018. Hurricane Florence produced record-breaking rainfall across portions of North and South Carolina when it made landfall on the morning of September 14, 2018 near Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. The extra heat also disrupts our water cycle. The amount of water vapor that evaporates off the oceans increases as the oceans warm. That water vapor is carried over the land and often falls in much bigger precipitation events. When the land can't absorb all of this water that falls in these larger storms and downpours, we see floods and mudslides. We also understand that water vapor is another greenhouse gas. Extreme precipitation events like this one, you can see the supercell, this huge cumulonimbus cloud. They have produced more rain and become more common since the 1950s in many regions around the world, including much of the US. This supercell storm with a column of rain at its center occurred around Glasgow, Montana back in 2010. Extreme precipitation events lead to record flooding, which has been occurring all over the world. You can see the submerged bridges during the 2015 South Indian floods in the South Indian states of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh on December 2015. Sometimes people wonder how global warming can be blamed for causing more precipitation and flooding, and at the same time, more drought. Well, the extra heat that's trapped by rising levels of greenhouse gases actually leads to both. As the climate changes, precipitation patterns also change, leaving some places with less rainfall than before. Changing precipitation patterns can lead to drought and water shortages. This is a picture of southern Brazil, for example, which suffered a devastating drought in 2015 and 2016. Higher temperatures also have a direct effect on the incidence and severity of wildfires. Here we see that the number of large wildfires corresponds closely to years with higher average spring and summer temperatures. Today, the fire season in the western US is more than 100 days longer than it was in the 1970s. In 2016, this fire in the heart of the Canadian tar sands region destroyed large parts of the city of Fort McMurray, Alberta, which forced the evacuation of over 100,000 people. This is very reminiscent of I-80 back in August during the LNU complex fires that affected a portion of Vacaville and Solano County. The number of climate-related extreme weather events has been going up worldwide according to insurance agencies. The last 2 years ranked among the top 10 most expensive for overall disaster losses, with over $160 billion in losses in 2018 and $140 billion in 2019. In fact, if you live in a wildfire-prone region, some insurance agencies will not cover you. You will have to buy different supplemental insurance for wildfire protection. The first photo is of a glacier in southwest Greenland, which was shot in the summer of 1935. You can see it shows the glacial ice covering the fjord walls. And the second photo is the same glacier, which has almost completely melted by 2013, not even a century later due to rising temperatures. NASA has precisely measured the decline in the mass of ice in both Greenland and Antarctica. All this extra melting is raising sea levels worldwide. This flooding occurred in Miami Beach, Florida, on a sunny day with no rain. High tides now regularly flood the streets of Miami Beach as well as several other coastal cities around the world. This situation will not get better, it will only get worse as sea levels continue to rise. Miami is the number one city at risk in terms of assets at risk, along with Guangzhou, China, New York, Newark, and others. Looking at cities at risk by population, we see that many huge cities in developing countries are very much in danger. If parts of these cities become uninhabitable, where will these people go to live? The Department of Defense in the United States has long warned about refugee crisis connected to the climate crisis, as well as pandemic diseases, water shortages, and food shortages. Heat stress is now beginning to decrease crop yields from rice, corn, and soybeans. Exposure to higher levels of carbon dioxide also decreases the nutrient contents of many staple crops such as rice, wheat, and soy. You can see the heat damaged corn and farmer in the Yucatan in Mexico. Infectious diseases, heat stress, and airborne pollution, waterborne diseases are all influenced by changing climate and not in our favor. Warmer temperatures have an impact on the spread of tropical diseases. Modern transportation and air travel play a part, but the potential range for many diseases expands as regions farther and farther poleward get warmer. This means there are more and more places where a disease like Zika can take root. The main mosquito that spreads Zika and dengue and yellow fever is now covering a wider range in a warmer, wetter world. In warmer temperatures, the virus incubates faster and mosquitoes breed more and are able to transmit the disease longer. The health impacts of the climate crisis are often overlooked but will affect millions of people. Climate change, along with other factors such as ecosystem loss, is contributing to the worst extinction event since the extinction of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. This is a picture of the endangered golden poison frog. All of these threats, including many others we have not covered here, and the fact that the World Economic Forum says climate change is the number one threat to the global economy, help to answer the question, must we change? So, do we have to change? Yes. Number two, can we change? What about this second question? And the answer to this is actually very, very exciting and positive. We've got solutions available to us right now. Look, for example, at renewable energy. Wind energy was predicted to provide 30 gigawatts of electricity worldwide by 2010. As of 2019, we had exceeded that prediction by 22 times over. And we've seen birds landing with the wind farm. We also seen how Denmark has taken advantage of the local winds, the sea breezes and the land breezes, and built offshore wind turbines. The growth in wind energy being built around the world is an exponential curve. And globally, wind could supply worldwide electricity consumption over 40 times. Solar energy is even more dramatic. 18 years ago, the best projection was that we would install 1 gigawatt of solar energy capacity per year by 2010. By 2010, we exceeded that goal by 17 times. And in 2019, we exceeded the goal by 121 times. In fact, all new buildings in California is required to have solar panels on their roofs. So, even more dramatically than with wind, we see an exponential curve in the amount of solar energy installed around the world. Just as we've seen with other technologies like computer chips, cell phones, the solar costs have fallen dramatically. In some regions, solar energy is less than half the cost of electricity from burning coal. In 2019, cost 0.25 cents per kilowatt. Per watt, versus in 1976 where it cost $79.40 per watt. So the silicon solar cell module has definitely decreased in price. In many countries where there is no universal electricity grid, we are seeing consumers and businesses leapfrog old technologies and install solar panels in places that have long been denied access to electricity. You can see a solar panel installed on a rural roof in Nimul, South Sudan. And so they basically leapfrogged over electricity pole lines. Chile is a true success story thanks to its policy decisions. The country's solar market took off slowly, but look at what's happening now. Just phenomenal. At the end of 2018, Chile had 2.3 gigawatts of installed solar and has an additional 16.67 gigawatt of solar projects approved or under construction. There are many regions in the world where this type of growth and development are possible. Every hour, the Earth gets as much energy from the sun as we would need to run the entire global economy for a single year. If we can increase the fraction of this energy that we harvest and use, we can make a lot of progress towards solving the climate crisis and helping local economies at the same time. Battery storage is an essential part of the green energy revolution. Batteries allow us to store excess solar or wind energy and use it during those times when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. Batteries are also critical for the electric vehicle market. In 2016, the global cumulative storage capacity approached 3.0 gigawatts, which is almost 2 times the storage capacity seen in 2011. As storage technologies get more efficient and cheaper, the market is growing quickly. Global cumulative storage capacity is expected to reach over 900 gigawatts in 2040. Within the next 8 years, highly efficient LED lights are predicted to virtually take over the market. Energy-efficient technologies like LEDs save people money and also help to reduce emissions by cutting down on the amount of electricity that we use. All of these automobile manufacturers are now offering or preparing to offer electric vehicles. This is also another part of the sustainability revolution. So, can we change? Yes. Will we change? This final question. Here too, there's exciting news. In December 2015, at the Paris climate negotiations, every nation in the world agreed to phase down greenhouse gas pollution to net zero emissions as early as the second half of this century as possible. Climate action isn't just about what countries do. We all have to take a lead on climate. We're seeing corporations, states, and provinces and cities commit to reducing emissions. We are seeing marches and demonstrations, demands at the ballot box for the necessary changes to solve this crisis. Speak out and make everyday choices to fight the climate crisis. Use your voice, use your choices in the marketplace and in your life. Because your world depends on it and we need your help. Thank you.